Have you ever been in the middle of a movie, or maybe working on an important deadline, when suddenly everything goes dark? Annoying, right? Well, it seems like these power outages, or blackouts, are happening more and more often across the United States. And the reasons behind it are more complex than you might think. So, what's really going on with our power grid? Let's unplug from our devices for a bit and shed some light on this. First, let's talk about the elephant in the room, our aging infrastructure. Much of the US power grid was built decades ago, back in the 50s and 60s. Think about it, that's like trying to run the latest high-speed internet on a dial-up modem. These old-school transformers, power lines, and substations are simply wearing out. They weren't designed to handle the massive and complex energy demands of the 21st century. Over time, components degrade, become less efficient, and are more likely to fail, especially when they're pushed to their limits. It's a massive, nationwide system, and upgrading it is a slow, incredibly expensive process. So, until those upgrades happen on a large scale, the system remains vulnerable. But it's not just about old equipment. Our weather is getting wilder, and that's a huge problem for the grid. We're seeing more frequent and intense extreme weather events, and this is a direct consequence of a changing climate. Think about the massive winter storms in Texas that froze natural gas pipelines, the devastating wildfires in California that forced utilities to shut down power lines to prevent sparking new blazes, or the powerful hurricanes on the East Coast that can topple transmission towers like dominoes. Each of these events puts an enormous strain on the grid, often causing widespread and prolonged outages. The grid was designed for the weather of the past, not the extreme conditions we're facing today. Then there's the demand side of the equation. Our lives are becoming increasingly electrified. We have more gadgets, more electric vehicles on the road, and more homes relying on electric heating and cooling systems. All of this adds up to a huge increase in electricity consumption. This is especially noticeable during peak times, like on a scorching hot summer afternoon when everyone cranks up their air conditioning at the same time. This surge in demand can overwhelm the grid, forcing utility companies to implement rolling blackouts to prevent a total system collapse. They essentially have to ration power because there just isn't enough to go around. It's a delicate balancing act, and sometimes the demand just outweighs the supply. Now, you might be thinking, what about renewable energy? Isn't that supposed to help? And you're right, in the long run, it's a huge part of the solution. We're seeing a big shift towards wind and solar power, which is fantastic for the environment. But this transition also brings new challenges. Unlike traditional power plants that can generate electricity 24/7, wind and solar are intermittent. The sun doesn't always shine, and the wind doesn't always blow. This variability can make it harder for grid operators to maintain a steady, reliable flow of electricity. We need better energy storage solutions, like massive batteries, to store the excess power generated on sunny or windy days so we can use it when conditions are unideal. We're making progress, but we're not quite there yet. This transition period, where we're moving from the old system to the new, can be a bit bumpy. Another factor that's often overlooked is physical and cybersecurity threats. Our power grid is a critical piece of national infrastructure, which makes it a target. Physical attacks on substations, like what we saw in North Carolina, can knock out power for tens of thousands of people, and then there's the digital threat. As our grid becomes smarter and more connected to the internet, it also becomes more vulnerable to cyber attacks from hackers or even foreign adversaries. A successful cyber attack could potentially cripple large sections of the grid, causing chaos. Protecting against these threats is a constant and evolving battle for utility companies and government agencies. So, what does this all mean for us? It means that, for the foreseeable future, power reliability might not be as certain as we're used to. We have an old system struggling to cope with new challenges, extreme weather, soaring demand, and the complex transition to renewable energy. But it's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot of work being done to solve these problems. We're seeing massive investments in grid modernization, including smart grid technology that can automatically detect and isolate outages, rerouting power to minimize disruptions. Companies are developing better and cheaper large-scale battery storage to support renewables. And there's a growing focus on grid hardening, which means making power lines and substations more resilient to storms and fires. For example, burying power lines underground in high-risk areas or using stronger, more flexible poles. We, as consumers, can also play a role. Being mindful of our energy use, especially during peak hours, can help reduce strain on the grid. Things like running your dishwasher at night or adjusting your thermostat by a degree or two can collectively make a big difference. And as technology advances, things like home battery systems will allow us to be more energy independent. So the next time the lights flicker, you'll know it's not just a random glitch. It's a symptom of a much larger, more complex issue. Our power grid is at a critical turning point, facing immense pressure from all sides. The path to a more stable, resilient, and green energy future is challenging, but it's one we are actively building. It will require innovation, investment, and a little bit of patience from all of us. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video illuminating, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the topics that shape our world. Let me know in the comments what you think is the biggest challenge facing our power grid. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.